But what weight did that legal compliance assessment have in the process of the disciplinary proceedings? So if your decision was to not continue with the disciplinary proceedings, but the HOD was of the view that there is a case, a good enough case for it to go to disciplinary, how would you resolve that conflict?
That was because it was never my role to say, in terms of approving or saying it can go to disciplinary. The HOD of the department who raises the issue will do an internal investigation. They will do that, so that investigation will come through. It'll never stop anyone, any of the functionary, never change anything else, apart from me then coming in to say, okay, the HOD gives you the report. I will look at the report and say, right, come, do you need an internal disciplinary process? Or do you need an external process? Then I would say to the HOD, in my comments, to the HOD HR, to say, I support this, or this needs to be looked at further, can we get this information, and so on. But it was never for me, it was just to say, these are the issues I picked up. I think we can use that to tie up so that we're secure, because over the last 2 years, we've had union litigation upon litigation. And these are some of the issues that is why they brought it between HOD, HR, and myself to say, look at this. And I can never stop any disciplinary from going on. I leave it to the HOD. I said, these are the issues. Can we cure it by further investigation? These are issues. I'll even guide that. For example, if I can, by way of an example, on the 1st of December, there was a matter came back about the Firearms Control Act, and to charge somebody who had lost a firearm and failed to disclose. So they wanted to charge her for discipline as well. So all I said to them was, please go back, look at then who was in the control of the documents, but why your policy says there will be 3 monthly inspections. Where is that? So I asked them to get that added inspection report to say what has happened. It's just to strengthen any case that we're dealing with, but not to, I mean, the HOD HR will probably say, no, I hear you, or no, I don't agree. And she can take that decision. But from my side to say, give us an added leg of compliance in terms of that.
Okay. Now, this system only came into effect on from the 22nd of August 2023.
That's correct.
So when Mr. Erasmus approached you in May of 2023 regarding Commissioner Mkhwanazi's matter, this system was not yet in place?
No, it was not.
Okay. And can I just understand, when would he have met with you? We know that the suspension, Commissioner Mkhwanazi's suspension was going to lapse, the 3-month suspension was going to lapse on the 24th of May. 2023. So when would he have come to see you?
Chair, the Commissioner Erasmus, as I said, he came to me. If it was like for me preparing an exact time, I would have, knowing about this further, I would have said to you. But it was before the suspension lapsed. It was immediately, I think it was the last week or latter part of May, but before the suspension lapsed. And by that time it was too late, because if I'm looking at investigation finished March. April, NISA decides to say, okay, we're approving and he appoints then on the 30th of May. So from April to 30th of May, it's almost a month and a half. Nothing happened. And then you're coming to me at the last minute and say, please, can you do that? Now, as I said, Erasmus and I, we go for, a lot of the officers, HODs, senior personnel, come to me. If I'm in the office, I'll see them. I don't make appointments. The only one I've documented is when Chief of Police said to me, can I see you on the 21st? And that is when I put it down. But it's quite correct. Before the 22nd of May, there was no formal structure like this that you had to come to me. It came to me because Erasmus came to me to say, can I support an extension of the suspension from a compliance perspective? But it comes at the latter part, towards the very end of it. Even the letter from Chief of Police to me, dated 21 June, is asking for me to assist there. But by that time, and they had until July. If I look at the disciplinary code, They had until July to serve and finalize the charges. And if, for any reason, the processes were delayed, you could also ask for a further suspension or a further time of another 3 months, as provided in the disciplinary code.
Isn't that what he was coming to you for guidance on that aspect, the extension of the suspension, not the merits of the disciplinary process itself and the charges?
Counsel, when he comes to me to support an extension of a suspension, I cannot say, in light of the very serious charges that are against Mkhwanazi, and I want to know who are the witnesses, because the 2 witnesses that are there must be other witnesses who will supplement a positive case. So I have to go into that. I've got to delve into that to see, but what are the other issues that would be here? It's not about this, when you come to ask me to extend the suspension, you have to tell me, but why could you not do it all this time? Because it's suspended from February. What are the issues that led to the stage now where you're coming for an extension at the latter part of May? And that's when I looked at the document. Then I said to him, no, I'll have to speak to the chief as well. So that is where it was, Chair.
Okay, and when you then give him the guidance, which we will get to from page 13 on your assessment of the case, I understand you to be saying that you took the docket or the file away from him for a short period to review. So you didn't make a decision or give your view to him then and there on that day when he saw you?
No, I did not.
Okay.
It was about 2 days, I think, 1 or 2 days. Yeah.
And apart from him, who else did you discuss the matter with before you gave him your view on the merits of the case?
Besides Chief, because he was the one who drafted the documents, and I asked these questions, the next person was the Chief of Police.
Okay, but you only meet with the Chief of Police on the 21st of June, 2023. Correct?
21 June 2023, yes, correct?
Yes, but Erasmus had come to you before the 24th of May 2023. So it's about a month between the 2 meetings.
Yeah, okay, in terms of formal discussions, but I was given city manager, because she has an interest there, to say, city manager, we're looking at these issues. We're looking at these issues of, Erasmus is with me, I'm speaking to the Chief of Police, but that would have been a verbal communication as well. It wouldn't have been a formal matter. The only formal letter was when the email went out to Linda Nike, which is concerning the iPad update.
Okay, so you discussed it with Erasmus, the city manager, and then on the 21st of June 2023, you discussed it with the Chief of Police.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the way your statement reads, it's as though by the time you speak to the Chief of Police on the 21st of June, you had already formed an opinion on the merits of the case, because the Chief of Police, in his letter that he sends to you after that meeting, says, having discussed the matter, and he explains to you why he disagrees with your views. So you had already formed the view then before you spoke to him, correct?
It's correct, because I went through the documents. When I look at the file, I formed a view that there were certain aspects that needed to be addressed. And the link then to the state of the city address and so on. So I formed the view. So the meeting with the Chief of Police and I would have taken under an hour. So it wasn't a long meeting. It was about an hour where I said to Chief, these are my concerns. And I think, Chief, that if we don't address these adequately, in terms of what you found at the state of the city address, because it cannot be said that it was just the issue of there's a full value chain of how CAT VIP and so on came to the office, into the city of Ekurhuleni. So let's look at those aspects. And that is where my issue was. An opinion to say, yes, these are the issues we looked at.
But did you have a discussion with the HOD HR?
No, the HOD HR at that stage, because it was still dealt with, you remember Chief deals with the disciplinaries? I had no discussion with the HOD because the extension of suspension application would be dealt with by HR. So this was between the Chief of Police and myself.
Okay.
Can I just ask? When Mr. Erasmus comes to you, or Colonel Erasmus comes to you about an extension, why did you not direct him to the HR people? Because as you correctly say, disciplinary matters are HR matters.
Yes, Chair, because it is the HR persons were already dealing with a possible extension of the suspension. He was looking for compliance comments to support in doing that. So that's why he came to me from the compliance perspective. Is there something that I could support it? Because if it goes then to the HR, it is more likely that the HR will grant a suspension. But that is when I picked up on those issues, I could not then, without having those issues addressed, grant or finalize at that stage. And I said, let's speak to the Chief of Police.
Sorry, I don't understand. You say in your statement that he came to you regarding the impending expiry of the precautionary suspension, and I understood your evidence earlier to be exactly that. He came to speak to you about an extension, or that the suspension is about to expire. What do we do?
Yeah.
I understood that to be your evidence.
Chair, my evidence, yes, in the main, but it was about trying to get compliance support from me to give him support, favorable comments to send through to the HOD, who deals with the extension. That's not my process. But to look at compliance comments, which I could support for that extension. And then when I looked at the file a day or two afterwards, or engaged with the file, and when I met him again, that is when I said to him, but you need, these are the risks I'm seeing. Extension is one issue, but how far which other witnesses are you going to get? Because when you're asking for extension in our environment, you're going to say, which other witnesses are you still looking at getting? The first witness, Jeff Wicks, we don't know what happened to him, whether he was coming in or not, because the Chief of Police sent him an invite. Mgwabe seems to be not very committal about what happened there. All Mgwabe says is that he raised it with the senior management. He raised the report on the donations with the senior management. There's nothing further from there. Christine talks about certain issues of other donations dealt with this issue. And I said to him, but from a compliance perspective, the issue of nothing stops you from going on with the disciplinary. In terms of even the extension of suspension, even if the suspension occurred, there are processes in place when you find the matter for condonation to deal with that. And these are some of the issues I dealt with, because if the suspension had occurred, what else could you have done? If the suspension ended, you could still go on with the disciplinary.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure that you're answering my question. My question really is, when he came to you, and according to your evidence, and I think you've just confirmed it now, that he came to speak to you about the pending expiry of the suspension, you seem to have gotten into the merits, but I'm more interested in what did you say to him about the suspension? Did you say to him there are grounds to to extend it, or you're getting into the merits means you got to a point where you said, no, there's no valid basis to extend? That's what I'm trying to understand, because he's coming to ask you about extension.
Okay. Chair, there was no outcome on that. My issue was when I looked at it, I said, Erasmus, this is where I'm looking at. Have you addressed these issues? We did not finalize that. I did not give anything to say that these are the issues. I'm not granting you the extension or not. Address the issues, Chair. Same thing with my PA. Address the issues.
So you discuss the merits.
I discuss the issues.
He comes to you about an extension that's about, a suspension rather, that's about to expire. You'd instead discuss the merits.
The merits were, with me, from a compliance perspective, Chair, I cannot devoid myself.
I'm not yet at why did you discuss the merits. I'm just trying to get the facts from your evidence.
Yes, I got into the merits.
You instead discussed the merits.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Still on the same subject. So in paragraph 54 of your statement, you mentioned the impending expiry of the suspension to which my co-commissioner, Commissioner Balo, has just referred you. And then at the top of page 14, and this is now paragraph 55, you say I identified several material evidentiary gaps which posed a foreseeable risk to the sustainability of the disciplinary proceedings. And then at paragraph 60, you say, I regarded these gaps as significant. And then in paragraph 61, 62, 63, 64, You then say you met Colonel Erasmus and told him your views about the merits being what my co-commissioner engaged you on, Commissioner Baloyi. Now, I do not understand why you should have chosen to deal with the merits and not with what Colonel Erasmus came to you about. I understand your emphasis about your concern being compliance. You've said that umpteen times, and you said it even before Ms. Sigurd started engaging you. You emphasize that. But point is, the Colonel comes to you for specific advice on an impending expiry of the suspension. Why do you not deal with it?
Chair, I did deal with it in the sense that I'll ask him to leave the file with me. Now, for a suspension in the labor environment, suspension is not punitive. Suspension does not stop anybody, and you cannot say that if something else comes in, nothing stops you from resuspending him. That is the processes that in our city we experience that. So I had to delve into the merits to see what...
Show me in your statement where you dealt with it, responding to Colonel Erasmus, who sought advice from you. Show me in your statement where you dealt with it. Insofar as the subject related to Colonel Erasmus, who sought advice, show me where in your statement you dealt with it.
Did I suggest... sorry, Chair, I just want to...
Show me in your statement where you dealt with it. Insofar as Colonel Erasmus, who sought advice from you, was concerned.
It's not in the statement itself. Let me go 61, 62. Please, with your indulgence, Chair. These are the engagements I've had with Colonel Erasmus verbally when he returned to me on that date. And my issue was, if you want me to extend or support an extension of the suspension, what would be the material facts that I would have to use to...
But your statement is quite detailed, Mr. Bihari. Why would you leave out something that related to what he came to you about? Your statement is quite detailed. It says nothing in response to Colonel Erasmus about the extension of the suspension.
Chair, I did not finalize the process of saying to him I support it or not.
Why not?
Because I was still waiting for him to confirm to come on another date after I've seen the documents. So when I saw the documents and I discussed it with him, and I said to him, these are the issues, I need to speak to the Chief of Police, because I'm not satisfied that we will be, and these are the issues I raised.
You see, my problem is, later when you talk about the head, Commissioner Mapie, you say that by then the suspension had expired. So you were working within very short and tight timelines. You raise all of these issues. They have nothing to do with the impending expiry of the suspension. You raise all of these issues. Time is running. What do you do about the expiry of the suspension? Bear in mind, Mr. Bihari, that the suspicion, false or correct, the suspicion is that you were part of a clique that was protecting Brigadier Mkhwanazi. So those who are on the other side, in quotation marks as it were, will say you let the suspension expire exactly because you are on Brigadier Mkhwanazi's quote-unquote side, as it were. Do you get the context? I come back to my question and I ask, why did you not give advice to Colonel Erasmus on the extension of the suspension? That's what he came to you about, not all of the issues that you then raised or chose to raise with him? Why did you not give him advice on what he came to you for?
Chair, Colonel Erasmus, on the second date after looking at the documents, I had to inquire, if you're going to you must have a reason for extending the suspension. There must be valid reasons in terms of other witnesses still to come. If he had dealt with that, he never gave me a response to my questions. Who are the witnesses? So in our engagement, if he had told me at that stage, but Mr. Bihari, we bought the stuff, I need this, they would have been finalized then, Chair. He never gave me the responses to say that.
Had you taken a definitive view on what you saw as gaps? Had you taken a definitive view that says there are gaps and there is no way that these gaps may be plugged? Had you taken a definitive view in that regard?
No, Chair. When I had it was a conversation with Erasmus to say, these are challenges, but tell me.
Now, if you had not taken a definitive view, surely that must mean that you had not discounted the possibility that further investigations just might plug those gaps. Is that not correct?
The further investigations, Chair, would have certainly plugged it if those gaps. But mine was to say to Chief.
Yeah, that's enough.
No,
that's enough for
mine. It would have been at the time, Chair, when I looked at the matter, and I said to him, "But these are the concerns I have." If he said to me, "No, I still need this witness," and so on, during our conversation, I would have had no problem with that. Chair.
No. It could not simply have depended on what he said. You are the head of legal.
Yes.
You have just accepted now that those gaps could have been plugged. Not so. You've just said now.
No, correctly, Chair.
Now. How can you throw it back at him if you yourself think that these gaps can be plugged? Is the obvious thing to do not to actually give him time to plug those gaps? If, as you say, they were capable of being plugged, why don't you say, my advice to you, which is what you've come to me about, is an extension of the suspension. That will give you time to plug these gaps. Was that not the obvious thing for you to do? In
hindsight, Chair, now that I hear you put it that way. In hindsight, now that I hear you say it that way.
You accept.
Yes, because, let me leave it at that.
Was it not obvious even at the time? I don't think it's enough for you to say that in hindsight you accept. Was it not obvious even at the time? Why put stumbling block after stumbling block after stumbling block without giving him solutions? He has come to you for a solution.
Chair, at the time, the solution was for me to say, go and complete the investigations. Go and do the stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And for that to happen, Mr. Bihari, he needs time, and he can only have enough time if you agree to the extension of the suspension. The suspension was not was for a purpose. It was not for the sake of it. Suspension should be removed from the system for proper investigations to take place. So why do you not give him time to do that? By assisting him with what he came to you for, extending the suspension. It's not enough to say in hindsight you agree with me.
Chair, when he came to me, it was about supporting the extension of a suspension. We had an engagement. I said to him, these are what I think are problematic. These are things we have to close, and these are the witnesses we have to include. It never didn't finalize. I said, can I speak to the Chief of Police? And then the next meeting was the Chief of Police called me. But that was by the time the suspension had lapsed, but I didn't deal with any suspension.
Effectively, you let the suspension expire, Mr. Bihari. You let the suspension expire.
Chair,
you are raising all the problems with him, and you say, I'm going to speak to the Chief of Police, and by the time you speak to the Chief of Police, the suspension has expired. You let it expire.
Chair, but Chair, there was never an intention to let the suspension expire. My intention was to make sure that we have all the processes, because as I said, applying the laws to say that a suspension is not punitive, nothing stops us from still carrying on and saying that we have new information to resuspend. The HOD HR could have resuspended. But for me, looking at it, and I know you mentioned that I'm going on about the compliance issue. That was what was important to me. How do you finalize these gaps? And Erasmus could not give me at that stage any response, but it could be taken as, and I say to you that I let it lapse, but it was never my intention. My intention was to look at how do we finalize and close all the gaps. The suspension could always have gone back and said to the HOD, let's resuspend. There's been other cases where we've resuspended. Suspension lapse, we resuspended.
Yes. You see, I would understand you, Mr. Bihari, on your point about the possibility of continuing with investigations even when the person is back with their suspension having expired. I would understand if you were saying that, having told Colonel Erasmus in so many words that, Colonel, I have all these gaps which need to be plugged, but let the suspension expire. You can continue with your investigation to plug these gaps with Brigadier Mkhwanazi back at work. I would understand if that was your approach and if that was what you communicated to Colonel Erasmus. You never did that. You are now stating this in the witness box.
Chair, because as I said, that is the policies of the city. These are legislation.
I understand the policies. I understand the prescripts. But the point I'm raising relates to your response to Colonel Erasmus when he comes to you for advice. Sitting there now, you tell us that in accordance with our prescripts, even if a suspension has expired, investigations may continue. You are saying that in the witness box, but Colonel Erasmus came to you for advice. You never responded to him that way. That is the point I'm raising. It's different from the question of prescripts that you are raising.
Chair, as I could say, is I focused on the issues. Colonel Erasmus, as I said, I'm aware of the processes in terms of suspensions. If the suspension lapses, we've dealt with that previously, where we can always suspend again. Because there's new issues that came in.
Can you please focus on how you dealt with Colonel Erasmus? Please,
but that was
please do not focus on the prescripts. I understand them.
Okay, but
Can you focus on how you dealt with Colonel Erasmus? That's my issue.
Chair, there was no definitive response to Colonel Erasmus. I did say to him I will discuss it also with the Chief of Police, because even if the suspension lapsed, then I could have still discussed it with the Chief to say, right, once we finalized it, let's go proceed further on that issue.
Thank you.